I'd like to introduce our student, MFA program student, Ruth Bonapace. She too was in Ursula's class over the weekend. She'll be introducing Julie. And last night she wrote a really funny piece about the madness over keys in a real estate office. So please welcome Ruth Bonapace.
Okay. Well, just when I start, I wanted to point out, you know, we've all taken the SATs and everything, and there's those questions where you have 3 or 4 words, and you have to, some are similar and some are dissimilar and everything. So I have one of those, and got all laughter. I don't know if you can see it. Well, you know, and I was kind of looking, and I thought, well, probably we would take poet if we had to think of one that doesn't fit. But then, you know, I did a little work on that. So, because after, I mean, you know, the NCAA doesn't come to poetry reading, so we can forget that. And poets aren't really thought of as funny. They aren't paid to be funny. They're hardly paid at all. So, a little chuckle here and there. But, so anyway, but it's not the kind of funny like if you're laughing, your eyes tearing and everything, like you know, over at a bar stool, you know, in a bar with friends. So no, poets speak with great gravitas, and you don't go to a poet to spill out your guts over a breakup. That's better left for the shrink or the bartender. And you wouldn't go to a poet to learn how to make a cocktail. And poetry jokes are really bad usually, especially when combined with alcohol. There are a few, I don't know if you guys know them, but the one that I found was, what do you get when you combine Robert Frost with James Bond? Anybody? No. The road not shaken but stirred. I can't even say that. Okay, so that's about as far as poetry jokes go. But anyway, tonight we can prove that a lot of these truisms about poets and poetry simply are not true, because I happen to have a copy of Julie Sheehan's latest book here, right here. And it's got a gorgeous cover. It makes me want a martini. And it's also, though, a very special copy, because it's been signed by the author. Now, I mean, I know that's not a big deal because authors sign lots of books. Like their friends have them and strangers. But how many inscriptions look like this? Whoops. You probably can't see it. It looks like it was signed in the 2nd grade. But Julie's not 7. I don't think that, you know, not to be personal about it, but it's very, and she was very sober when she did that too. And that's because that reference to the summertime broken bones, so she signed it with a broken arm. And yeah, and that goes back to the ball field, you know, that's where that happened. And yeah, and it was very admirable because that kind of like, some people would have just forgotten about it, and a lot of authors, they sign books to please their publishers or make back their advance or something. But it's like a task maybe. I mean, I'm just imagining like clearing the table after a dinner party. You do it because it's expected, but maybe you'd rather be sitting by the fire with a fine port, you know, which could subliminal advertising there. And anyway, the point is that she broke her arm and she still showed up for her reading, fresh from the hospital, then signed the books in a cast. And, you know, trying to figure out whether it's best to sign with the cast arm or the other hand, and, you know, kind of got it. It took about 20 minutes per signature, but it happened. And so it's a very special copy. It's very unique. When she wins the Pulitzer, I can put it on eBay. Or so, but I was very impressed, but not surprised, because the first time I met Julie, it was at a Stony Brook, Manhattan reception, much like this one. And I didn't know anyone. Everyone was milling around, so I kind of meandered up to a group of strangers, sort of wanted to blend with the little group. And I assumed it was a safe-looking group. It wasn't the faculty or the celebrity writers, so I kind of got into this little group. And you know, so we talked. I was told she was from Iowa, not the writing program, but the real Iowa. You know, Meredith Wilson's Iowa. And I was told she'd won an award. Which turns out, I think that was the Barnard Women's Poets Prize, which is very nice. and then she had a collection of poetry that was about to be published, which is very impressive. And we laughed and we mingled, and she made me feel very welcome, and I moved on and mingled some more. And I thought, I really like these guys, I should join them. And eventually I did, and here I am, and it was very memorable. And Julie was a really memorable part of that. And then when I did join the program, I found out she wasn't a student, and which I sort of assumed, but that she got degrees from not just one, but 2 Ivies, Columbia and Yale, and that she was on this faculty, and that this Bar book is actually her 3rd published collection. And I did some further snooping around and found out that she's been published also in literary magazines like Plowshares and even the Paris Review, which blew my mind. I mean, she's so nice. There's not a trace of self-importance, open, honest, down to earth. Like this book, her latest book, which is funny and witty, but also sad and tender and really inventive, different, delicious, harsh, sweet, angry, lots of things all together. And just like the drinks in the book and the people who serve them, it's not just my humble opinion. If you look at the reviews, we have Roger Rosenblatt calling Julie a magician of a bartender. Mixes heartbreak and instruction, prayer, irony, wisdom, wisecracks, a Shirley Temple, and a mudslide. The resulting concoction is life in a tumbler. Get the feeling they really like these puns. You know? Good permission to use them. And okay, now he's on the faculty, but we also have Mark Doty, who says the book is a tale of hearts on the rocks and hearts surviving, and that's true. And then Philip Schultz, a Pulitzer Prize winner himself, says that this is a, quote, highball of grief and the fearless sublime, stirred, not shaken, with wit and no-nonsense truth-telling. Truth-telling. It's obvious to me, as a reader, that truth-telling is Julie's not-so-secret ingredient, whether it's hilariously life-affirming or heartbreakingly sad or furiously angry. And it's a huge honor for me to introduce this evening Julie Sheehan, who is all of the above.
Wow, that's just awesome. I think we're done. Great. Well, nothing I read could possibly compare. I don't have, well, I do have actually a pop quiz in the book. Maybe I'll read that. It's a Cosmo quiz. It's modeled, the book you probably have gathered by now borrows from any number of non-traditional forms. Where is that thing? I wasn't planning to read it, but I've never read it before. Here it goes. So it's in one of the sections where the narrator barmaid is talking through how she does her job. We find out in footnotes that she's struggling to apply these sort of rules of order to her personal life, which does not cooperate and is a disaster. She gets married to the wrong guy, she has a child, the marriage falls apart, and we follow that story in footnotes. But in the here's what it looks like on the page, just so you can see. In the prose part, she talks about how she does her job. This is a section called A Word About Problem Customers. She says, fortunately, you can identify the problem customers with almost no luck or skill. And you won't need this quiz unless you are remedial in the basics of the human psyche, which betrays itself with comic speed. Match the item on the left with its correlative on the right. Okay, the first one on the left. A steer-built Baldo in his Elks Club blazer jokes about an adverse effect on your tip when he discovers tête de boeuf misspelled on the specials list. Here's the second item on the left. Her reading glasses have sighed down her delicate nose and are ready to take a suicidal leap. She holds the menu at arm's length, staving it off because it might well be about to lick her face. Don't you have any freshwater fish? She lobs her query over the front of the menu, which says, Reggie's Crystal Beer Parlor. That's item 2. Item 3. Armani shoulder to Armani shoulder, the two square off against the bar. A Mondrian among Louise bourgeoises. Their eyes glisten from having just discovered a college acquaintance on the What's Hot list in New York Magazine. Do you know how to make, they await your worshipful, they've read about it already. Do you know how to make a suffering bastard? All right, so those are your 3 candidates. On the right-hand side, here's what you match them to. Sorry, we're out of that. Let's start with your lovely daughter. Would you like that glazed or crusted? I thought, especially after hearing Ursula read, I'm going to read another section I've never read before. I've been thinking a lot about cognitive dissonance and how, oh, I don't know, you could have tax giveaways to the really wealthy at the same time that you're really, really worried about balancing the budget. Just off the top of my head. And like how that they just sort of don't match to me. But call me cognitively dissonant. So I'll read a couple of sections that have to do with that, but one of them is called FAQs about extreme unction. And it seems to really fit with what Ursula read. And it has a part in German, so I'm going to ask her to read that in its native tongue. Okay. FAQs about extreme unction. The idea is to get the forgiving done before you have an actual corpse, but only if you will have an actual corpse. Footnote 28. Divorce serves the same idea. It anoints the death of a family in notarized date stamps that smell guilty precisely because they lead inexorably to that death. The rite is a little different, involving partial stipulations so ordered. A plaintiff, hereinafter referred to as the husband and father. The word whereas, repeated many times, and plenty of Xeroxing. But the idea is the same, and so is the flaw in the idea. Since in both cases, the process of exculpation looks, sounds, tastes, smells, and feels more like a process of execution. And both raise suspicions of inefficacy. Does a dab of oil at the second to last breath really rub out sin? And when the judge signs the true copy duly entered and the divorce is granted, has he any power to give, much less forgive? Children know better. You can't forgive someone who's not dead yet. Research bears out that children of dead people adapt to the loss of a parent more quickly and effectively than children of divorced people, who remain unresolved the rest of their lives. The news isn't all bad, though. Children of divorce are better than average at detecting unctuousness. Now we're back to our FAQs about extreme unction. Anoint the 5 senses, eyes, ears, nostrils, lips, hands, and, in the case of men only, the loins. Anointing a woman's loins is strictly forbidden. Perhaps hers are in no need of forgiving. Perhaps hers are too icky for the priest to handle. The question of loins is only one of many angels on a pinhead type debates about extreme unction. Here are a few more. How close to death do you have to be to qualify? You must be about to croak, though certain California nuns would dispute this. If you're not really in mortal danger, God will never forgive your impudence, just as he will never forgive California. Must baptized infants on the verge of death be denied extreme unction? Yes. Though they can be confirmed. If you are a baptized infant on the verge of death, ask for the sacrament of confirmation instead. Is extreme unction really a sacrament, or just a nice, vaguely holy thing to do? It's really a sacrament. No, it's not. Yes, it is. No, it's not. It is too. I'm telling Mom, she hit me. If you use the indicative, I anoint thee, instead of a prayer form, does it count? Nope, sorry. The excessive debate, together with the taboo on women's pubic area, makes me leery, as if it were all an elaborate cover, a rationalization, as if the priest were the shooter, the rites of forgiveness a mask for the benefit of the conferrer, not the dying body. It can't be pure accident that the word unction has come to mean exaggerated, assumed, or superficial earnestness of language or manner. Webster's. For an impromptu, self-administered dose of extreme unction in that latter sense, read the portentous bullshit on the label of a Jägermeister bottle, claiming to be a poem by Otto von Weissenthal, written in 1848.
Okay. Das ist des Jägers Ehrenschild, dass beschützt und hegt sein Wild, weitmännisch jagt's, wie sich gehört, den Schöpfer im Geschöpf verehrt. In English, please.
I was going to say that too. This is the hunter's badge of honor, that he protect and nourish his game. Hunt sportingly, as is proper, and honor the Creator in creation. Would that be before or after he kills it? Footnote 29. This is the sort of rationalization my ex favored. It wounds me to have to say this, he'd begin, before sinking the knife into my anterior lobe. Why not, I hate you, or I want you dead? The conventional wisdom in divorce books is to never say anything bad about your ex-spouse. It's unfair to your children who love the bastard. On the other hand, the greatest responsibility of a parent, one that Otto von Weissenthal has clearly shirked, is to pass on a coherent worldview. How do I explain coherently why I am no longer married to Marguerite's father without saying anything bad about him? In my worldview, he represents blind aggressiveness, the tendency to hunt sportingly that which is not game, me. I quit tending bar. I keep books now, balancing sheets, toting up assets and liabilities, working alone at home, and open the door only to Marguerite, who knows the secret knock. This is at the very end of the book, obviously. I'll read one last poem. I'm ready to wind up, right? One last poem, and it's gotta be Jägermeister double shot. Throughout the book, there's a chorus of drinks. They pipe up and they express their points of view, so we get to hear what they have to say about the world. Here's Jägermeister. I used to be hot, but now I keep an eye on Estonia from time to time. There's too much gravity, a sag, and other areas of relative entropy, and also relative peace. A flatland, underground stream, rubble from mountaintop removal, or such ozone depletions as scars the cheekbone. If only you had died, not polluted the discourse, brought discord to the ringing spheres, our small talk twinkling out there in the beltways where Pluto yet orbits, disinherited space junk, keeping a cold eye on the bodies of the solar system. Thank you.
I think Julie may have just ushered in the era of loin anointing. Right? Anyone want to come to a party? So thank you both for those great readings. I just want to point out we have some of our fabulous instructors in the audience. Stephen Moulton, will you raise your hand? And where did Meg go? Oh, it was looking right past you. Meg Wiltzer from the... So if you don't know them already, introduce yourselves to them. There'll be book signing and beverages in the back. And thank you all and good night.